Step by step, Xabi Alonso is getting closer to taking over Chelsea in July. We do know that there's work on transfers happening behind the scenes, although we haven't seen much in the way of really strong links yet. What there has been is a lot of links to players that are likely to move away during the summer. We do know we already have some players in the likes of Valentin Barco, Emmanuel Omega and Mike Penders joining the squad for next season. So with that in mind, we're going to take a look at 4 different formations that Xabi Alonso could utilise at Chelsea next season. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And today that means we're going to take a little look at what might come. So we're going to look at 4 different formations that Xabi Alonso could use for his possession-based football at Chelsea next season. We're going to take a little look at some of the signings we could make in order to play these formations. And just as a disclaimer, all of these formations are going to be without Marco Correa and Enzo Fernandez, who as of right now still look like they're agitating for moves away from the club this summer. So without further ado, let's get into it. We start with Xabi Alonso's classic 3-4-3 formation that he used to win the invincible double at Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. Across all of these formations, what is going to always remain the same is it is possession-based football. So any players that I have added have been with that in mind, and I do try to compare the profile of the players that we might bring in to the ones that he had at that team at Leverkusen. So bottom to top, as ever, Mike Penders. So spoiler alert, Mike Penders will be the goalkeeper for all 4 of these formations. As of right now, the news is telling us that Mike Penders is coming back to challenge Robert Sanchez for that number 1 spot, and Philip Jorgensen is looking to leave. The majority of the PR has been focused around Chelsea looking for a centre-back and a left-sided attacker, and most recently has been added into that also a midfielder. So with that in mind, Mike Penders starts in goal, which makes sense for this possession-based football, right? His passing stats were outrageous last season. I did a goalkeeper comparison not so long ago, so if you are interested in why I think Mike Penders might be the best goalkeeping option for Xabi Alonso's possession-based football, go and check that video out after this one. We move into the 3-man defence, and another spoiler alert, Levi Colwill is going to be in all of these squads as well. Levi Colwill is the defender that we ultimately have to build the team around. He's got leadership qualities, he's an excellent passer, he's still really, really young, and it is just, he's by far and away the best defender that we've got in the squad. In the 3 at the back, I've got him playing in the centre, although that isn't actually necessarily what happened at Leverkusen. Leverkusen's central centre-back did a lot more of the defensive work, and the left-sided centre-back actually handled a lot of the passing stuff. But either way, I do think Levi Colwill is just built for this role, one way or another. On the left side, I've gone for Yoro Hato, who absolutely proved towards the end of the season that he is a phenomenal player. Still 19, I think maybe nearly 20 years old. He's so versatile, and the left centre-back role wasn't necessarily the one that we brought him to play either. He made his name at Ajax playing at left-back and managed to get 8 assists in that season. We've seen all sorts from Hato this season. He can get assists, he can score goals, he can play at left-back, he can invert into midfield, but also he can play at the left centre-back role, which is what we've been seeing more recently. And it's actually been a great story with Yoro Hato. He didn't barely get any game time under Enzo Maresca, but towards the end of the season cemented himself as a really useful option in the squad, and in this formation, I think he works really well as a left centre-back. The right centre-back, I've gone with a player that we've been linked with recently. It's Maxence Lecroix from Crystal Palace, who has won 3 trophies with them in the last few seasons. Currently 26, 27 years old, really, really astute defender, and 100% the kind of guy I think we should be looking for. He's an interesting counter to Levi Colwill and Yoro Hato, who are both very technically gifted ball players as well as anything else. Maxence Lecroix is definitely a bit more of an astute defender and a defence-first defender in that kind of respect, but ultimately I think he's a massive upgrade on your Tosin Adarabioyos, your Benoit Badiashile, your Axel Disassis, and all of those guys. He's got Premier League experience, he's also recently got winning experience, and I think he would complement this back 3 really, really well. So we'll go left to right for the midfield. Now, at left wing back, a guy we've already signed, it is Valentin Barco. Valentin Barco has largely been playing midfield for Strasbourg for the last season and a half sort of thing. He did play a bit left back as well, but ultimately one of the great things about him is he's a very, very versatile player. He's very creative, he's fast, he is quite diminutive, but when you've got what is quite a tall backline there of Levi Colwill, Maxence Lecroix and Yoro Hato, maybe that's not such an issue. I'm really excited to see what Valentin Barco can do in the squad. I don't necessarily think he's just going to walk straight into the first team, but as of right now with this formation, I do think it makes sense to play Yoro Hato at that left centre-back role instead of the left wing-back role, because he's proved he can do it so well recently. And without buying anyone else at the moment, Valentin Barco seems like the obvious slot in that left wing-back role if we are to sell Marco Correa. So for the midfield, I've gone with Reece James and Moises Caicedo. So we'll start with Moises Caicedo. Another disclaimer, he's going to play in all of the formations that we've got. He is easily one of the best number 6s in the Premier League, if not the world. He has still got some developing to do. I think his maturity needs to improve so he can get a few less yellow cards next season than he has been getting for the last couple. But if you're a Chelsea fan, I don't need to go on about Moises Caicedo's qualities because he's just absolutely phenomenal and complements any midfield. So in this 3 at the back formation, I think Reece James would actually make a phenomenal midfielder. So the other option would have been to put him at the right centre-back spot, but I think bringing in Lecroix gives you a bit of height and physicality as well. And the thing you don't want to lose with Reece James in this kind of formation is the fact that he's such a good playmaker. Xabi Alonso loves deep lying distributors, right? And if we were going to keep Enzo Fernandez, I had a feeling that's maybe where he would have played. But in the absence of Enzo Fernandez and bringing in a new centre-back, it completely makes sense to me to put Reece James in this position. So we move over to the right wing-back, and it's another new signing with Gula Doué, who is actually the brother of Désiré Doué of PSG, but he is another Strasbourg player. Get your size out now, but to be completely honest, in this formation, I actually think he might be kind of ideal. He got really good numbers at Strasbourg last season with 2 goals and 7 assists in 34 appearances, and that seems exactly like the kind of player that Xabi Alonso likes at the right wing-back spot. Said this a couple of times now, Jeremy Frimpong playing that position in this formation for Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen got 14 goals and 10 assists. And on the other side, Grimaldo got 12 goals and 14 assists. So I don't think Barco's numbers are quite as good, but ultimately Doué has shown that down the right side he's able to be creative as well as a decent defender, and I actually don't think he'd be super expensive either, albeit that would mean that we have brought back 4 or 5 players from Strasbourg at the end of this season, but out of the ones that we haven't already bought, I think Doué looks like a real good option. So we move into the attack and we'll look at the 2 number 10s in the half space behind the striker. Obviously I've gone with Cole Palmer on that right side. I just think this is the position he was born to play. I think Cole Palmer would be absolutely phenomenal in this position, in this formation. He would lose a lot of the defensive duty that he'd have to do because he would not have to track back as often. He gets the freedom, he'd be able to drift out wide, he'd be able to come inside. Hopefully Xabi Alonso can get him back to scoring. That's really what we want to see from Cole Palmer, isn't it? Don't get me wrong, I understand he's a very creative player as well when he can assist, but on his best day, Cole Palmer is an absolute demon when it comes to scoring goals, and with a couple of versatile players around him that we're going to get onto, he can switch into a lot of different positions, and hopefully Xabi Alonso can get the best out of him in that role. For the left attacking half space, I've gone for Morgan Rogers. Now, I've done a few things like this before, but obviously we're doing it a little bit differently today, and I have put Morgan Rogers in the team before. I know a couple of you guys aren't really happy with him, but I've done a lot of looking into Morgan Rogers' qualities recently, and what he seems to be is something I think our attacking positions have missed in quite a while. He's a facilitator, he's a creator, and he's a provider. He created 13 big chances in the Premier League last season, and he's also a very adept goal scorer. So I think with the likes of a João Pedro, as you can see, and a Cole Palmer around him, Reece James feeding balls from deep midfield, and the likes of Gula Doué bombing up the right, putting balls in as well, I think he could score, I think he could assist, I think he could potentially get the best out of Cole Palmer and João Pedro. He can also drift out wide. He spent a lot of time at Aston Villa this season playing in the centre of attack, but also starting on the left side, so he's very versatile, and for me, for this position, it just makes sense. And of course, up top, João Pedro, another disclaimer, he's going to be a striker in all of these formations. There's a couple of different permutations and stuff that we're going to talk about. But at the end of the day, João Pedro, 20 plus GA in all competitions, 14, 15 goals in the Premier League last season. He can drop deep, he can assist, he's fluid, he's versatile, he's an absolutely phenomenal player, and he is the striker that we need to build our team around next season. So guys, that's my version of Xabi Alonso's 3-4-3 with a lot of the players that we've already got and a few additions we know are coming in with a few extra signings sprinkled in. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. And guys, if you've made it this far into today's episode of the Stamford Sync, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Oh guys, and something else I want to mention as well, I want to see all of your versions of these formations in the comments section, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the best one and put it in another video. So get your Tactico brains on, sprinkle some new signings in there, play around with the formations, and whichever of those is my favourite, I will put it in a video next week. Right, so let's get back onto it and move to the next formation. So although the majority of Xabi Alonso's success did come with that 3-4-3 formation, it is very possible that based on the players we've got in the squad, we could opt for a few 4 at the back style formations as well. So we're going to take a look at the 4-2-3-1, and that is largely because it's the formation we've been playing for the last, 4 or 5 years now, for the most part, under Graham Pochettino, Enzo Maresca, Liam Rossinho. We changed it a couple of times, but this has definitely been the core formation we've been using for quite a while. So starting at the back again, it's Mike Penders for the same reasons as before. I do think that Xabi Alonso is going to want a keeper that is strong in passing, but we've talked about him already, and it's always going to be the same reason. So let's move on to the defence. For this one, I've moved Reece James out of the midfield and into the right back position. I don't see Reece James playing a right wing back position because of the injury problems, right? His hamstring has been an issue. He's not going to be able to bomb up and down the wing constantly like he used to. But from a right back position, there's a couple of options of what he can do. If the left back, who we'll get onto in a minute, pushes up, then they can drop into a back 3 and he plays that right centre back spot really well. He can invert into midfield to overload it and give support and be a playmaker from there. And occasionally he can overlap or underlap with the right winger in order to create interesting attacking options and create chances from further up the field. It's the great thing about Reece James, right? He is a playmaker from anywhere on the pitch. And like I say, I don't see him having the athletic ability in order to bomb up and down like he used to, but from a right back position, he probably won't be asked to do as much bombing and can really get the best out of his creativity in that spot there as well. Centre back partnership I've gone for is Levi Colwill and Maxence Lacroix. So we're keeping Lacroix because, look, I just think he looks like a really good player. I have added another centre back into another one of these teams, but Lacroix does seem to meet a lot of the things that we need in the centre back position. So maybe there are other options, and let me know like yours, like I said in the comments. But for me, in this formation, I think him and Levi Colwill would play really well together as well. And at left back, I've gone for Lewis Hall. So again, this is on the idea that Marco Correa is potentially going to be out of the club. Like, there's lots of links to Atletico Madrid. There's been news today about Barcelona being interested in him as well. And we've been linked with other left backs. We've been linked with Grimaldo. We've been linked with Nathaniel Brown. We've been linked with Cambiasso. But I just think Lewis Hall makes sense. Newcastle rightly will not want to lose Lewis Hall, and it won't be cheap either. But I just think as a left back in a back four, he would be absolutely perfect for that role. He gets a couple of goals. He gets a couple of assists. He stays fit. He's an engine. He can run and run and run and run. And I think in this back four, he'd play really, really well for us. So moving on to the midfield. And as I said before, Moises Caicedo obviously keeps that spot. There is there needs to be a couple of linchpins in the squad, and they are Reece James, although he moves around, Moises Caicedo, João Pedro, Levi Colwill, and Mike Penders. But if we were to lose Enzo Fernandez and need to replace him with a deep line midfielder without Reece James moving into that midfield spot, I've gone for Adam Wharton of Crystal Palace. Another expensive option, it's absolutely true, but he's not gone to the World Cup, so he's going to have time to negotiate. Like Maxence Lacroix, he's obviously won a few trophies in the last few seasons as well. I'm not sure Crystal Palace would be happy with us taking Lacroix and Adam Wharton, but to be honest, as far as a deep-lying distributor goes for Xabi Alonso's possession-based style of football, I think Adam Wharton would just be phenomenal. In this formation, I've moved Cole Palmer back into the middle, and if I'm completely honest, I think that is, for me, where he plays his best football. I know he definitely can play well out on the right as well, don't get me wrong, and I know in the last formation he basically hovers on the right, but it's still essentially a number 10 position, but in this formation, Cole Palmer, on his best day, in the centre of attack, being able to distribute and get forward and score and connect play together. So on the right hand side, I've gone for Esteval Willian. Now I'm really hoping he gets over his injury worries. There's been some really promising news recently that he's looking to recover from his injury a lot sooner than expected, but what it does mean is he'll be able to be back and training with Xabi Alonso for the preseason, along with the likes of Cole Palmer and João Pedro as well, which is phenomenal news. Esteval Willian is an absolute wizard on that right hand side. He takes players on, he thinks really quickly. When he gets a ball, he isn't always just passing back, he's always looking to advance and go forward and create chances. And let's be honest, it's easy to forget about him a little bit because we haven't seen him in so long because of the injury stuff, and even when he was fit, he wasn't playing all of the time because we were trying to bed him in gently to the Premier League, right? But if he's fit and firing and ready for next season and we do play this kind of formation, he obviously owns that right wing spot over everyone else in the squad. On the left hand side, I've gone for Nicholas Jackson, and I think this is going to be really interesting. So we've heard that Nicholas Jackson is coming back. We've heard that Alonso wants to give him an opportunity in pre-season to prove what he can do, and one of the reasons they're interested in him is because he's a versatile player. Before we bought him, he'd been converted from a left winger to a striker by Unai Emery, I think it was, at Villarreal. He had a purple patch and had an absolutely phenomenal season, and that's why we went out and spent 30 mil on him. There's been a lot of water under the bridge, I'm not going to lie, but it seems like the majority of his issue was with Enzo Maresca rather than Chelsea in general, and it does seem like an option to try him out there 100%. It's like, I even remember when Nicholas Jackson was playing striker for us, he spent a lot of time drifting out to the left. He linked up really well with Cole Palmer, although the biggest issue with Jackson was always missing chances, right? But if he's on the left wing, he definitely will be a provider and a goal scorer, so he probably won't get as many chances. And if Xabi Alonso can figure out how to improve his clinical edge, I think he could be a really interesting attacking force for us. And again, up top, we've got João Pedro. The cool thing about João Pedro is just his ability to drop deep and facilitate, and, João Pedro can drop deep, and Esteval can move over to the left, and Nicholas Jackson can go up top. Like, I love the idea of a really fluid attack that keeps opponents guessing. So guys, this is the 4-2-3-1 that I've gone for, with the additions of Adam Wharton, Lewis Hall, and Lacroix, but also bringing back Nicholas Jackson from his loan at Bayern Munich. Let me know what you think. So next up, we're going to take a little look at a 4-3-3. This isn't a formation that we've seen being talked about very much, but at the end of the day, a lot of the best possession teams, like obviously Barcelona, if you remember Maurizio Sarri's Napoli as well, they played this formation. It feeds really well into a possession-based team because having all of those midfielders that aren't always trying to get forward all the time allows you to create lots of triangles and make really good passing passages. So I don't know how likely it is that we'll see this one, but I'm just going to throw it out there anyway. Again, we start with Mike Penders in the back and obviously Levi Colwill Colwill in the defence. I've gone for Yoro Hato and Reece James as the fullbacks. Largely, I think this would be really interesting because they can both get into midfield, which could help overload that with a box midfield, and they are both capable of playing left or right centre-back as well. So I think that's a really interesting option to have Yoro Hato and Reece James as fullbacks with a back four in this formation. And instead of Maxence Lacroix, I've gone for Jan-Paul van Hecke in this one. I really want us to go for this guy. I understand it's looking unlikely because Brighton want a huge amount of money for him. I think he's only got 1 or 2 years left on his deal, and Spurs apparently had £70 million bid rejected for him. So even if it's unlikely, I just think he would fit in the team really well. I love the look of Maxence Lacroix, and I'll be happy to see him in. But if I got my choice of anyone, I would go for Jan-Paul van Hecke, and I think in this formation, in this backline, he'd be great. So moving on to the midfield, for the number 6, I've gone for Adam Wharton, an absolute string puller, deep line distributor. I just think he'd be perfect for this kind of role. The Sergio Busquets-esque role, right? Not completely like that, but a little bit like Rodri as well. You know, not bombing around the field all the time, really connecting the ball, getting it from defence to attack and up to the midfielders, creating interesting passing triangles and passages, and it's just a no-brainer for me. So I've gone a little bit rogue with the rest of the midfield here. I've pushed up Moises Caicedo into a number 8 position. I think this would be a really interesting option because aside from all of his ball-winning qualities, what we have seen from Moises Caicedo, although not all of the time because of the position that he's been asked to play, but when he has the option to, he can thread a nice pass, he can connect play together, and he also, more importantly, can score goals. So in my head, it almost is like how Jose Mourinho used Oscar back in the day. Even though that was at number 10, he can press from the front, he can still defend, and if we can win the ball back from higher up with a Moises Caicedo playing a number 8 role, then it gets us in a good position to start attacks quicker. And on the other side of the midfield, again, I've gone for Morgan Rogers. Now, I know this isn't typically the position that he plays. He's normally in the number 10 or coming in from the left, but again, here, I think it makes sense. From this kind of position, Morgan Rogers would be able to drift out left, he would be able to get into the number 10 spot, and he's a really good passer, and he creates lots of chances. So it's not necessarily a million miles away from like a 4-2-3-1 if you think about the idea of Moises Caicedo partnering Adam Wharton and playing Morgan Rogers in the number 10 role. I like the idea of Caicedo pushing up and winning the ball back from higher positions in order to create attacks quicker. And in that kind of position, if he can get the ball to Morgan Rogers, then he can thread it through to a Cole Palmer and a João Pedro who you can see, or potentially a Rafa Leão on the left wing. So Rafa Leão is another player that we've been tersely linked with at the moment, although it has come out that he wants to leave AC Milan. He wouldn't be super expensive, he is a really good player, and he is versatile to an extent as well. So Rafa Leão was definitely more of an out-and-out winger when it comes down to it, which would suit this position in this formation. But the other thing he can do is play as a part of a front two, which is something he did a lot under Allegri because he was playing like a 3-5-2 essentially, and he was often playing as that left-sided attacker. So in a world where Reece James or Yoro Hato in this formation are pushing up to load the midfield, then all of a sudden Cole Palmer can drift into the middle and Leão can possibly push up front to play alongside João Pedro in a front two on the attack. I've put Cole Palmer out on the right in this one, and again, sort of really going for like fluidity here because we know he can play on the right, but also from this position, again, if we are pushing up fullbacks and getting into midfield, he can drift in, someone else can go wide, Reece James can go on the overlap like we talked about before in the 4-2-3-1, and I think it's an interesting option, and again, João Pedro up top to bang your goals away. So that's the 4-3-3. I don't necessarily expect to see this one, to be completely honest. I do think in reality it feels like more of a shootout between Xabi Alonso's classic 3-4-3 that he played at Leverkusen or the 4-2-3-1, which ultimately is the formation that most of the players we've got have been bought for. But I just think this one makes for an interesting permutation and option. Let me know what you think in the comments. So we're going to move on to the last one now, and this is a bonus formation that I have essentially put together for my friend Jay from Talking Chelsea. We did a podcast the other day and he made a little joke about petitioning to bring back the 4-4-2, and that got me to thinking, what would it look like and could we make it work? So here it is, my random 4-4-2, and this one, like I say, is for Jay from Talking Chelsea. Now, the thing with the 4-4-2, it's not necessarily conducive to possession-based football, is it? So we would kind of have to change our style a little bit. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. It is interesting. I just wanted to throw it out there. So again, Pender's in goal. We've gone for a back line of Yoro Hato on the left, Levi Colwill. We've brought back Maxence Lacroix, and we've put Malo Gusto in the right-back spot. So I've done that because the best Malo Gusto has ever played has been from more of a typical right-back spot. We saw it in the Club World Cup final. We saw it under Pochettino. There's a lot of people that aren't very happy with Malo Gusto at the moment, and a lot of people that would be happy to see the back of him. I think we're so light in that position, to be completely honest, that I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. But this is a random formation anyway with the 4-4-2, right? So I was like, why not throw Malo Gusto in there for one? And then we go to the bank of 4 midfielders. So for the 2 deeper lying midfielders, I've gone for Reece James and Moises Caicedo. Caicedo is your ball winner and James is your deep lying distributor. I've put Cole Palmer on the right, which basically means he's on the right, so he can play on the right wing or he can drift into the middle middle. And on the left, I've gone for Giovanni Quenda, who is another player we've got coming in this season. I think this is an interesting one because if you look at Giovanni Quenda's stats, he scores a goal. Don't get me wrong, he definitely knows how to score a goal, but largely he's a facilitator, he's a creative player, and that's the thing I think we need a bit more of in the squad. And when you think we're playing a 4-4-2, right, you want someone bombing up the left wing, putting crosses in, and I think Giovanni Quenda could be that guy. So then we go up to the front two, and obviously it's João Pedro, but I've partnered him with Emmanuel Omega, who also is coming in from Strasbourg this season. So this one in itself makes for an interesting one, right, because a lot of these players on the pitch can play in different positions. Cole Palmer can start on right midfield, but he can drift into the centre of attack. Emmanuel Omega is actually quite similar to Nicholas Jackson and could drift out wide, which would allow Giovanni Quenda to underlap, overlap, or come in to try and score. And obviously you've got João Pedro, who could drop into a number 10 role, which essentially turns this into a 4-2-3-1. So I don't necessarily think this is going to happen at all, but like I say, I just thought it would be funny to throw together for my friend Jay, because he mentioned bring back the 4-4-2, and like I say, it just got me to thinking, like, could that even work? Could we play some sort of possession-based football with a 4-4-2? Unlikely, but there it is. So guys, that's it. That's my 4 random formations with a few new players sprinkled in, and including a few players that we're bringing back from loans and pre-agreements. We did a 3-4-3, a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-3, and a 4-4-2. So let me know which one of these you think is more likely. Let me know which one's your favourite, and most importantly, like I said earlier in the video, get your favourite formation with a couple of players brought in my comments, and I will look through them all. I'll pick what I think is my favourite one, and I'll put it in a video next week with a graphic like this. Nice one, guys. I hope you're all having an absolutely wicked day, and I'll catch up with you very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.